On tonight, this morning, December 4th, at approximately 2:27 a.m., one of our officers was dispatched to a report at 511 Ohio Court for a suspicious person complaint. The officer met with someone involving a circumstance that he felt to be threatening and returned from the meeting point with this potential victim back to this residence. At that time, the officer was engaged in conversation with a potential victim. During that time, the officer was standing in a wooded area behind the property of 511 Ohio Court. At that time, he heard a loud pop, felt pain in his face, and sustained 6 to 8 projectiles. At this time, we haven't confirmed what those projectiles were, but he did sustain facial injury, was transported to Maryland Shock Trauma. At this time, he is conscious, stable, and communicating with our command staff. He's a 10-year veteran of the Aberdeen Police Department. Our detectives are on scene. They're actively investigating and have some leads in connection to this. Information regarding the suspect is being withheld at this time. We have information that is being developed, and we will be, when I find out that we can have that information released, we will do so.
Okay, is the search on right now for the suspect?
We have a very active investigation going on right now, and obviously we will be, when we're able to provide more details, we'll be doing so.
Did your officer ever make contact with the suspect?
We can't release that information at this time.
And can you go over that one more time? He came here to the house, he went back to the station, and then came back again?
There was an investigation that was ongoing, and not to get into all the specificities of it, the officer came back to this residence and met with a potential victim who had felt threatened involving some type of potential altercation. The officer was actually outside the property because of this potential threat, and was standing in a position where he would have been vulnerable from multiple directions. At that time, there was a loud boom that was heard. The officer sustained an injury to his face, and that injury right now is being treated.
Are any other agencies involved, and are you ready to put out any sort of notification about a car or anything else you're looking for?
All that information is being gathered right now and processed. I can tell you that once anything that we can do, obviously, to expedite this person being arrested is paramount, and at this time right now, all investigative avenues are being channeled and focused at locating this individual.
He was taken to Shock Trauma?
Yes, our officer was taken to Maryland Shock Trauma.
Flown or driven?
I believe he was flown.
And the initial incident sounds to be, talking around it like a domestic.
I can't comment on the nature of the incident, what the problem was.
As far as search methods right now, can you confirm that you saw a helicopter in the area a while ago?
We're using all of our investigative resources right now to include multiple resources. What is actually going on at this point, what is actively being utilized, I'm going to withhold comment on that, and there'll be more information we're going to be able to provide to you. We'll make you fully aware once we're able to contain the situation. It's very in the early stages, obviously, but we have very active leads that we're pursuing at this time.
Are there other scenes other than this one here?
I cannot comment on that right now. This is our focus point, I can tell you that.
So the initial call was for people, he was responding to people engaged with each other in an incident, or?
I'm not going to comment, again, the exact specifics. Again, this is a very active, fresh investigation. There was a call here, there was a complainant, and it did deal with a potential threatening situation. And I can leave it at that.
You're not asking for the shelter in person?
Not at this time.
MSP said that they confirmed that you asked for their helicopter. Did you also use Harford County or any other resources outside of Aberdeen?
At 27 a.m., officers from the Aberdeen Police Department responded to a complaint involving a suspicious circumstance. We had a potential victim that believed there was a situation occurring or was possibly ongoing that was of concern to that person. Our officers responded to investigate. While during the course of the initial phases of this investigation, our officer responded to 511 Ohio Court. At that location, he was in conversation with the victim outside the residence to the rear of the residence. At that point, he was gathering information when there was a large boom was heard. The officer immediately felt pain in the face and realized that they were injured. At that point, he sought shelter and immediate medical treatment was sought. At this time, the officer involved is a 10-year veteran of the Aberdeen Police Department. At this point, he sustained 6 to 8 projectiles. At this time, it's unknown what type of projectiles to the face, and is in stable condition at Maryland Shock Trauma. That's where he was flown to. We are developing suspect information at this time. We have all resources actively engaged in pursuing this individual. We've had support from the Maryland State Police as well as the Harford County Sheriff's Office, and they're providing all assistance that we've required or need in investigating this. We'll be providing more information as that information becomes available. At this time, due to the early nature of the investigation and our investigators actively following up on leads and other investigative avenues, that's all we're going to comment on at this time.
Those who live in this area, do they need to shelter in place? Is there a possible threat of this suspect?
We don't believe so at this time. At this time, we have a mobile suspect that we believe is not anywhere near the scene. And obviously, investigators are following up on information regarding the whereabouts of that individual. Obviously, we consider him armed and dangerous, and it's a priority for us to bring this person to justice immediately.
The initial call, was it a domestic call? What can you tell us about that call?
It was a call of suspicious in nature. I'm not going to go into the specificity of the call exactly, but our officer was here investigating a condition where there was a potential victim that felt threatened. That's the extent of where we're at right now on that. And obviously, more information will be made available. Again, we're at the early stages of this investigation, and as we can bring that information to you and release suspect information, et cetera, we will be doing that.
Any injuries to the victim?
No, at this time, the only injury sustained that we know of is to our officer, and at which time he's in stable condition as last check.
Did he return fire?
You're trying to return, did he return fire, and you're trying to figure out what he was shot with?
At this point, we're withholding information regarding if there are any exchanges and things like that. The evidentiary side of the investigation, at this point, I'm not going to comment any further.
Excellent.
I just was on the phone with personnel that's down at Shock Trauma. He's in stable condition right now. He's undergone some surgery for a projectile in his eye. So most importantly, our officer, it appears, is safe. At this point, we have identified a suspect in this incident, Tyler Testerman. He's a white male, 21 years of age. All of our resources right now, collectively as a department, also working in conjunction with the Harford County Sheriff's Office and the Maryland State Police, are deployed looking for this individual. We consider him armed and dangerous, and to use caution when approaching him. Please contact law enforcement if you have any information regarding the possible whereabouts of Tyler Testerman. I'll be providing you a photograph of that individual, and also for the folks that in the Aberdeen communities only, this affects only Aberdeen schools. Schools will be open at 10 o'clock. Well, schools are being closed until 10 o'clock, and a reassessment will take place at that time. So stay tuned, and we'll be providing more information as to the status of schools, and that will be affecting both our both elementary schools, our middle school, and high school. All schools at this time are delayed until 10 a.m. for Aberdeen city schools only.
Sergeant, is there a vehicle that we should be looking out for?
At this point, as far as the investigation is concerned, we are looking for Tyler Testerman. We believe he's on foot. However, that's very fluid. That could have changed. He could have had access to a vehicle. We don't know at this time. We will be relying on the public's assistance as well, though, and helping us with any information they may have as to the whereabouts of that individual. And we'll be passing out and circulating this information at this time. So if I could get that out to you guys, if you could run it, that would be great.
Would you mind holding up to our camera so that our viewers can see it, this picture?
This is our suspect here, Tyler Testerman, white male, 21 years of age. Again, to be considered armed and dangerous, and obviously it's paramount that we find him as fast as possible.
Any new information on what was used to wound the officer?
At this point, we're investigating it as it was some type of long gun, and the type of projectile still we're investigating that right now.
Officer, can we get a spelling on that last name, please?
On the suspect,
yes,
it's Testerman, Testerman.
Also, tell us what you can release about the officer who was shot, his time on the force and his condition.
The officer is a 10-year veteran of the Aberdeen Police Department. He works on our midnight shift. I talked to people very close to him. He's in good spirits, fighting a great fight. And at this time, he's in the hands of some of the best medical professionals, obviously in the state. So we feel very confident that we'll make a recovery.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Did the officer contribute to get a look at this guy?
At this point, we're not releasing those details concerning the suspect identification. I can tell you it's a collaboration of all parties that were involved, and that information, obviously, interviews are being conducted. Our CID right now, our Criminal Investigation Division, is actively following up on every and all leads. That's why, again, we're relying on the public too. Now that we've identified the suspect, we're putting that information out. If anyone out there in the public at large has any information about his whereabouts, please don't hesitate. Call 911. Activate your nearest law enforcement professional, and we'd love to get this guy brought to justice this morning.
Can you tell us about the search that you guys are performing now? Who's helping you with that?
Not to give off exact specifics, but we've used a combination of different types of resources to include tracking dogs, other devices that we'll be able to use to assist in that search. So there's not anything that we're not. All investigative avenues are being used right now, and all the resources, both within our agency and allied agencies, are being provided to assist in this investigation.
Who are those allied agencies that are helping you?
At this time, the Maryland State Police and the Harford County Sheriff's Office.
Do you have any reason to believe that the public is in any danger right now?
I mean, obviously, you have somebody that's armed with a weapon that's used in such reckless disregard to fire at a law enforcement professional. I would say this person's highly dangerous, and obviously, the public should be well aware of that.
Our viewers are just tuning in. We just took you live here. Can you please explain what's going on with the school today?
Yeah, at this time, Harford County Public Schools has decided to suspend school operations for Aberdeen only. That would include our 2 elementary schools, middle school and high school. Those schools' operations will be suspended until 10 a.m. At 10 a.m., we'll be in contact with Harford County Public School officials, and a reassessment will be made at that time to determine whether or not school operations will resume after 10 a.m. At this point, the investigation is it's rapid, it's ongoing. I'd like to, thank all of you guys for your participation in this. It's generating lots of new information that's coming into our department. I'd like to thank the public on behalf of the Aberdeen Police Department for their actions that they're taking by reaching out, making that phone call, and providing us with information that's actionable and information that is being made available immediately. So again, thank you. At this point, to just bring you up to speed, I spoke to personnel that's with our injured officer at shock trauma. Currently, it's in contradiction to what I reported earlier. At this point, he has not undergone surgery. However, he's being prepped, and an operation should take place shortly. Still, his condition is the same. It's stable, and obviously our thoughts and prayers are with his family. At this point, detectives are working diligently with our outside resources, still actively following up on the investigations and leads that we have been provided, and hopefully we'll be able to bring closure to this within the next several hours. If you guys haven't been made aware, right now the Aberdeen public schools that are within our community have all been closed for the day. We anticipate that all normal school operations will commence again on Monday morning, but for today, just due to circumstances surrounding this event, our chief believed it would be in the best interest of all in the community if the schools were closed for today. I have a very important announcement regarding our investigation. That information is going to be provided to you by Chief Henry Trabert. Chief Trabert.
Good morning. At 10:25 this morning, investigators surrounded a house in the 1000 block of Waterside Court in Edgewood. At that time, they believed the suspect was inside. The Harford County SWAT team then approached that residence, and as they approached, the suspect came out of the house and gave himself up. So the suspect is now in custody. We could say now that, we are safe here in Aberdeen. The shooter, we believe there was only one shooter. He has been apprehended, and we closed schools down for a while, and they will reopen Monday. There's no fear that there's another shooter out there. As far as our officer, it's Officer Jason Easton. He's a 10-year veteran with our police department. He is now down at shock trauma, ready to go into surgery. He's got about 6 projectiles in his face and forehead. One, we believe, is in his left eye. So we don't have any more information on that. We'll know more after he gets out of surgery.
Chief, do you know what led up to this shooting today?
Police were called to the Ohio court in reference to some type of threats made between two subjects that live there. When Officer Easton got there, he was talking with the complainant, did a search in the backyard, didn't see anything, did another search around the house. As he came back, he was talking to the complainant, was looking back towards the woods, saw something. I believe he yelled out, and that's when the shot went off and hit him in the side of the face.
Do we know if it was a pellet gun, a shotgun, what kind of weapon was used?
I don't know for sure. I would assume by the amount of pellets that are in his face, it was a shotgun.
You don't have the weapon yet?
We don't have the weapon yet.
So the shotgun was fired from the wooded area?
From the wooded area towards the house.
Can you describe the takedown at all? Was he cooperative? Did they have to go in and get him?
It's my understanding once the SWAT team pulled up to the house, he came out and gave himself up without incident.
What is that house related to that man?
We believe that's where his girlfriend lives.
I saw there was a peace order. Was she the subject of the peace order that was
that
currently
information I don't know.
Can you go back to when was there more than one call to that address?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there was. I know. I
mean,
believe we've been
this
there
morning.
before. I don't know if you can answer that or not.
Initially, from what I understand, the complainant in this case, the potential victim, was in fear over some type of message that took place between him and our suspect, at which time he felt compelled to contact law enforcement.
So this was an ongoing...
How long this had been going on is unclear at this time, and that's something that in further investigation will end up...
Is the complainant a male?
The complainant is a male. His name's not being released at this time, but again, we were following up as soon as that victim ended up coming to the agency and requested our assistance. We had an officer immediately respond, and in the early morning hours, that's ultimately what led to the encounter between Officer Easton and Tyler Tepper.
So my question is, did he respond the first time and then go back for a second time?
From what I understand, there was initially he made contact with the individual at a separate location, away from the police department and away from his residence. And a second call was placed requesting law enforcement's presence due to what he believed danger that Mr. Tessman was going to possibly present to him.
So he had encountered, he was with the police twice.
He met with our investigating officer, Officer Easton, who was the initial call taker. He met with him at an alternate location, and he was in a position where he needed to get back to his house to finish that follow-up to it. And once he was in that position, we responded to the house. So it was all a contemporaneous event. There was just two different meeting points.
Was there any indication that the suspect would be armed?
Not to my knowledge. And again, we're in the initial stages of the investigation, so more of that will play out as the investigation unfolds.
Any idea what charges he's facing right now in addition to attempted murder?
Excuse me. We don't know that. Yeah, investigators are just starting their investigation. They just apprehended him, so they're bringing him back to the station where they will talk to him. We don't know a motive. We don't know why he fired the shot. We don't know who he's trying to hit. We just know that there was one shot fired and our officer was hit. The complainant was not hit.
Was the complainant with the officer when the shot was fired?
We believe he was, yes.
Was the officer in uniform?
Yes.
Was a weapon recovered?
That I don't know of yet. They are searching the house and the vehicle as we speak.
How far away is it? Did he drive over or walk over?
I don't know. I'm assuming he's about 10, 15 miles away now, so I'm assuming he had a vehicle.
Chief, do you know how severe the eye injury is? Could he lose his eye, or is this going to be superficial? Do you have any indication?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
And what can you tell us about the officer?
Like I said, he was a 10-year veteran. He's got a family at home. His wife is down at the hospital with him now with some police officers. He's got a family staying with the young kids. He has very young kids, and he's a great guy. He's a great family man. He works hard in the community. Most business people really like him. So it's a sad day for us at the police department. We're a close-knit police department, and we're hoping that he will recover very fast and will recover completely.